So we're ready to demonstrate a queue by creating one. So let's go ahead and start off by creating our class. That'll be our first step, our class for a queue. I'll call this an aptly named queue. Within here, let's go ahead and define some variables that we're going to need. The first will be the size limit, max size, and it will be of a type of an integer. The next will be an array of long integers, and we will call this my queue. Max size is going to be used to initialize the set number of slots, and my queue is simply the container for the slots. So our next private variable will be to indicate the front of the queue, and likewise we'll have one for the rear. And then to keep track of the items, we'll have items. Now let's go ahead and do some initializations with our constructor. And the first thing will be to set max size to size. And size is going to be a variable we are passing in. Next will be my queue, which will be set to a new instance of an array. And the index will be set to size. Front will be assigned 0. It's the index position of the first slot of the array. Rear will be -1. And items will be 0 because we don't have any elements in the array at the very beginning. Our next method is going to be to insert an item into the queue. So we are going to call this insert and passing in the type of long, and the variable is j. And what we're going to do is check to see if the rear is equal to max size -1, and if so, we assign the value of -1 to rear. And essentially what we're doing here is setting up a circular queue. If that is not the condition, then we need to increment rear and set my queue the index of rear and assign it the value of j, which was passed in to this method. And the last thing is to increment items. All right, so based on what we've done so far, can you think of something that we can add to here? If you're talking about a safety check to see if it's full, you're right. So why don't we go ahead and do that? We'll check to see is full, if our queue is full, and if so, we will write to the console that it's full. Queue is full. So let's go ahead and just generate this method real quick. Is full. All I'll do here is just return items is equal to max size. So now we can add our else condition where we actually do the work if it's not full, and we just copy this and drop that into our condition. All right, let's go ahead now and create a method to remove. So what we're going to do is return a long. Our intention is to remove an item from the front of the queue. So let's go ahead and create a temporary variable and assign it the value of what's in the queue, with front being the index. To end the complaining, let's return temp, which is what our last step would have been. And right after assigning a value to temp, let's go ahead and increment front because we're removing, so now we need to change that value. And here we will enter in a condition to check to see if front is equal to max size. If that is the case, then we could set front to 0. And we're doing this so that we set front back to the 0 index so that we can use the entire array again. Now let's go ahead and create a method to peek. And to do that, all we need to do, I'll call this peek front. We're just going to return my cube, but with the index being front. I'd like to add another method to check to see if it's empty. That's always a good idea to have. So let's go ahead and do that. And to check whether or not it's empty, we're just returning items equals 0. All right, what we have left to do is to create a method to view our content and then the remainder of the code to execute it. That's up next.